The National People's Congress opens its annual meeting with Premier Li Qiang delivers his government work report. A fatal incident at Caritas Medical Center involving a 75-year-old male patient. And Donald Trump speaks before a joint session of Congress, vowing to press ahead on reshaping America. Good evening, and thank you for joining us. The National People's Congress opened its annual meeting in Beijing today, as Premier Li Qiang delivered his government work report. He said China's GDP growth target is about 5%. There are also plans to issue 1.3 trillion yuan of ultra-long special treasury bonds this year. The annual meeting of the National People's Congress was held in the Great Hall of the People in Beijing, with President Xi Jinping in attendance. In his agenda-setting annual address, Premier Li Qiang delivered his 32-page government work report. He said the basket of policies unveiled earlier propelled China's GDP to grow by 5% to 134.9 trillion yuan last year, which Li said was a hard-won achievement. Li also set multiple major development goals, including an expected GDP growth target at about 5%. Li stressed the need to implement a more active fiscal policy, with plans to issue 1.3 trillion yuan of ultra-long special treasury bonds this year. Such bonds have a maturity period of 10 years or more. This year, 4.4 trillion yuan of local government special purpose bonds will be issued. It will be used to invest in construction projects, digesting the arrears of local governments to enterprises. The new government debt will total 11.86 trillion yuan. Beijing will also implement a moderately loose monetary policy and cut the reserve requirement ratio and interest rates when the needs arise. Greater efforts will be made to foster the healthy development of the property market and the stock market. They include minimizing the debt default risk among real estate enterprises. To boost domestic demand, 300 billion yuan worth of ultra-long-term special treasury bonds will be dedicated to the trade-in of consumer goods. National leave or holiday framework will be improved to boost more domestic consumption as well. Li said the government will ramp up funds earmarked for development needs amid economically tighter times, with more focus on benefiting people's livelihood. For the first time, the premier mentioned in the work report that China will rectify neijuan, which is the excessively cutthroat and self-defeating competition in which enterprises are forced to invest more without yielding proportional gains. To combat neijuan-driven competition, Li said the government will roll out policies to bolster development of private Chinese companies. On Hong Kong and Macau, Premier Li Qiang said it is important to firmly implement the one country, two systems principle while supporting the two SAR's economy and livelihood. On Taiwan, the Premier stressed the importance of the One China principle and Beijing's staunch opposition to Taiwan independence. Hong Kong Chief Executive John Lee was seated next to Macau Chief Executive Sham Ho Fai at the rostrum. Premier Lee said the government supports Hong Kong and Macau in their effort to deepen international cooperation and raise the innovation level of the Greater Bay Area. Lee added that the central government will firmly implement the policy of Hong Kong people ruling Hong Kong with a high degree of autonomy. John Lee said he is encouraged by the Premier's speech and that the SAR government will unite with the community and to deepen reforms and develop the economy. U.S. President Donald Trump addressed a joint session of Congress in Washington Tuesday. The nearly 100-minute speech was given in an often hostile setting, with one Democrat ejected and the rest sitting unmoved, as Republicans gave him numerous standing ovations. It was a time for Trump to hail his achievements so far as he touched on domestic issues such as immigration and his hope for peace in Ukraine. Nasri Kareem with more.
Republicans offering a standing ovation, while the Democrats neither rose nor applauded.
America is back.
Not for Texas Democratic Representative Al Green, who opposes Trump's plan to cut the Medicaid health care program. He was ejected by House Speaker Mike Johnson. This set the tone for Trump's record-breaking 1 hour 39-minute speech to a deeply divided Congress, in which Republicans hold the trifecta of presidency, Senate, and House. Trump used the time to praise his own achievements during his 6 weeks as president, during which time he has upended American domestic and foreign policies. Immigration is a topic close to his heart.
But if we truly care about protecting Americans' children, no step is more crucial than securing America's borders. Over the past 4 years, 21 million people poured into the United States. Many of them were murderers, human traffickers, gang members, and other criminals from the streets of dangerous cities all throughout the world. Because of Joe Biden's insane and very dangerous open border policies, they are now strongly embedded in our country, but we are getting them out and getting them out fast.
He also reserved praise for billionaire Elon Musk, head of the Department of Government Efficiency, or DOGE, which he said has so far spotted tens of billions of dollars in wasted government spending.
Thank you, Elon. He's working very hard. He didn't need this. He didn't need this. Thank you very much. We appreciate it. Everybody here, even this side, appreciates it, I believe.
This as some Democrats held up signs saying "must steals," while Trump criticized them for refusing to stand or applaud. Foreign policy played a small part of his speech, with Trump's vowing peace in the Middle East and saying Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky reached out to him after last week's Oval Office clash.
Earlier today, I received an important letter from President Zelensky of Ukraine. The letter reads, "Ukraine is ready to come to the negotiating table as soon as possible to bring lasting peace closer."
Trump closed in usual style, amplifying a promise for a new America.
Get ready for an incredible future, because the golden age of America has only just begun. It will be like nothing that has ever been seen before. Thank you, God bless you, and God bless America.
Nazvi Karim, TVB News.
Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky described as regrettable his recent clash with U.S. President Donald Trump in the White House. He suggested both parties can move forward as the U.S. halts military aid to Ukraine. On a social media post, Zelensky addressed Ukrainians, saying that he stands ready to work with the U.S. under Trump's strong leadership. He said Ukraine was also willing to sign a lucrative deal with Washington on his country's rich supply of rare earth minerals in exchange for security. Zelensky clashed with Trump and Vice President J.D. Vance in Washington last week and left the White House without signing any deal. In an apparent reference to Trump's criticism that Zelensky does not want a peace deal, the Ukrainian leader said, "None of us want an endless war." Kremlin spokesman Dmitry Peskov, when asked about Zelensky's comments, said it's good and positive. Donald Trump's new 25% tariffs on imports from Mexico and Canada went into effect on Tuesday, along with fresh duties on Chinese goods. This has sparked trade wars between the United States, its top 3 trading partners, that could slam economic growth and raise prices for Americans. Tracy Furness has more.
Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau called American tariffs very dumb and said US President Donald Trump is appeasing Russian President Vladimir Putin while launching a trade war against Canada.
The United States launched a trade war against Canada, their closest partner and ally, their closest friend. At the same time, they're talking about working positively with Russia, appeasing Vladimir Putin, a lying, murderous dictator. Make that make sense.
In response, all 3 countries affected by the tariffs, Canada, Mexico and China, announced retaliatory measures. Canada will slap tariffs on more than $100 billion of American goods over the course of 21 days. Mexican President Claudia Sheinbaum said she plans to announce retaliatory tariffs against the US on Sunday. Meanwhile, China is imposing tariffs of up to 15% on key US farm exports, including American-grown chicken, pork, soya and beef. It also expanded the number of US companies subject to export controls and other restrictions by about 24. It is expected Canada and Mexico will suffer more than the US from Trump's tariffs because of the US economy's size and strengthening dollar. And shoppers could start seeing prices go up as early as in a few days.
Experts say consumers and businesses will be the hardest hit, with higher prices on everything from cars and appliances to everyday items like gasoline and groceries. Trump sent financial markets into a tailspin as people wonder what he will do next.
The Trump administration is considering granting relief from his 25% tariffs on Canadian and Mexican imports to products that comply with the 2020 US-Mexico-Canada Agreement's rules of origin, aimed predominantly at automakers. Tracy Furness, TVB News.
And still ahead, CK Hutchison Holding plans to sell its Panama Canal port stake to BlackRock. Organizer of the World Snooker Grand Prix apologizes over spectators being asked to leave the venue before the game was over. And LIV Golf players' spiritual tour of a Buddhist monastery in Taipo. Welcome back. A Hong Kong-based conglomerate has agreed to sell its controlling stake in a subsidiary that operates ports near the Panama Canal to a consortium, including New York-based BlackRock Inc. This effectively puts the canal under U.S. control. Daniel Rao tells us more.
In a filing, CK Hutchison Holdings said it would sell all shares in Hutchison Port Holdings and in Hutchison Port Group Holdings to the consortium in a deal valued at nearly $23 billion, including $5 billion in debt. The deal would give the BlackRock consortium control over 43 ports in 23 countries, including the ports of Balboa and Cristobal, located at either end of the Panama Canal. Other ports are in Mexico, the Netherlands, Egypt, Australia, Pakistan, and elsewhere. The transaction, which must be approved by Panama's government, does not include any interest in a trust that operates ports in Hong Kong, Shenzhen and South China, or any other ports in China. Some 70% of the sea traffic that crosses the Panama Canal leaves or goes to US ports. The US built the canal in the early 1900s as it looked for ways to facilitate the transit of commercial and military vessels between its coasts. Washington relinquished control of the waterway to Panama on December 31, 1999, under a treaty signed in 1977 by President Jimmy Carter. US President Donald Trump has claimed that Carter foolishly gave the canal away. Trump and his supporters have also complained about the fees ships are charged to use the waterway and alleged China has been operating the canal. That assertion has been denied by Panama's government. Still, Trump heralded the consortium's acquisition as a US victory.
A large American company announced they are buying both ports around the Panama Canal and lots of other things having to do with the Panama Canal and a couple of other canals. The Panama Canal was built by Americans for Americans, not for others, but others could use it. The most expensive project also that was ever built in our country's history, if you bring it up to modern day costs. It was given away by the Carter administration for $1, but that agreement has been violated very severely. We didn't give it to China. We gave it to Panama, and we're taking it back.
Frank Six, the co-managing director of CK Hutchison, said the transaction was a result of a rapid, discreet but competitive process in which numerous bids and expressions of interest were received. Six stressed the transaction is purely commercial in nature. Dan Orell, TV News.
A fatal incident involving a 75-year-old male patient at Caritas Medical Center. He could only consume liquid food but choked to death after allegedly being fed the wrong type of food. Samantha Lee reports.
The 75-year-old male patient had a history of high blood pressure and dementia and had to consume minced meals since last year. He started consuming congee-like food last month. Last Friday, the patient was admitted to hospital for bloating and constipation. He was initially forbidden to eat and received intravenous injection. As his condition improved, the doctors in charge wrote DAT, which stands for Diet as Tolerated, on his medical board. However, a nurse misunderstood and thought that the patient could consume regular meals. As a nursing student fed him, the patient started to cough and could not breathe. Despite immediate resuscitation, the patient's breathing and heartbeat stopped. Food remains were found in his throat. Representatives of Caritas Medical Center apologized for the incident and said the nurse and the nursing student are currently on leave. Dr. Gladys Kwan Wai-man, hospital chief executive of Caritas Medical Center, said the student nurse fed the patient bite by bite, while trying to see if the patient could chew and swallow. She also believes there was a miscommunication between doctors and nurses responsible for the case. Dr. Chen Wai-man, a hospital authority chief manager in patient safety and risk management, said authorities will enhance communication with frontline staff. The goal is to make sure there is clear communication when handing over the care of patients. He added staff members will be reminded to double-check the meal arrangement before feeding. An investigation panel is expected to submit a report in 8 weeks. Samantha Lee, TVB News.
At the World Snooker Grand Prix held at Kai Tak Sports Park last night, some spectators were asked to leave the venue when the games were still being played. Secretary for Culture, Sports and Tourism Rosanna Law said the situation is less than ideal and asked the organizer to rectify the issue. The World Snooker Grand Prix tournament is being held at the Kai Tak Arena for 6 consecutive days starting Tuesday. However, the second match between Kyron Wilson and Matthew Selt at Table 1 started later than scheduled. The players were in their 5th game at about 11:15 p.m. That's when spectators were told to leave the arena before midnight because of venue usage restrictions. Immediately after that round, arena staff tried to usher the spectators to leave, sparking outrage among the spectators. The spectators said Hong Kong should have more professional arrangements when hosting such international tournaments. The organizing committee of the event issued a statement in the morning, apologizing for the incident. The committee said it has been communicating with the Kai Tak Sports Park to ensure spectators can watch the entire game from today through Sunday. As compensation, ticket holders of the evening session on March 4th can redeem equal value tickets for Wednesday and Thursday with a ticket stub. But a spectator said there should be a refund mechanism as some people had bought tickets for many sessions of the tournament. Some spectators said they will file complaints with the Consumer Council. The government has instructed the organizer to ensure spectators can watch the entire matches and, if necessary, arrange transportation for attendees after late-night games.
This situation is obviously not ideal, and we definitely need to take into account the experience seriously and identify remedial measures.
The Kai Tak Sports Park said in the event of late-night tournaments, overnight buses to Mongkok will be available. The LIV Golf Tournament will be held at the Fanling Golf Course from Friday to Sunday. Scott O'Neill, CEO of LIV Golf, said Hong Kong has a world-class golf course and the tournament can help promote the city in attracting more tourists. The 3-day event features 54 players from around the globe with a total prize money of around 194 million Hong Kong dollars. Some star players were invited to visit a local monastery to experience Chinese culture ahead of the tournament. Zakaria Passmore.
The golfer's spiritual journey started with an encounter with the 70-meter tall Guanyin statue in Tizan Monastery in Taipo. This team of 4 will compete in the group tournament, which includes Martin Keimer, a 2-time major champion, and Adrian Meronk, who won the individual championship at the LIV Golf Riyadh tournament last month. At the monastery, they participated in various Buddhist rituals, such as a water offering to make wishes.
So while you walk, you can think about a wish that you want to make.
They spun the prayer wheel to get a taste of ancient wisdom.
So that is the energy that that place provides. And the museum, it was a very different experience. Both very interesting, something that I have not experienced before.
We have a lot of books at home about Buddhism, actually, but to experience it like that was new for me.
After 10 years of construction, the Tizhan Monastery opened in 2015. Both individual and group visitors are required to register in advance. There are around 500 quotas per day. As for last May, the monastery has welcomed 2.1 million guests. Apart from local citizens, there are many travelers from Buddhist countries such as Thailand. LIV Golf is returning to Hong Kong for the 2nd year. According to the Hong Kong Golf Club, last year's prize money from the competition contributed $33 million to the Hong Kong government in tax. Financial Secretary Paul Chan said the government is in discussion with LIV Golf to explore long-term partnership. This year, Live Golf has added a new tournament in South Korea, while it already runs a contest in Singapore. How can Hong Kong stand out in the Asia region?
I think Hong Kong is one of the stops with the lowest tax rate. So I think this is very attractive to our players for more incentive for them to win, because I think the money they take home will be more than other stops.
Kwok hopes that fans and spectators around the globe will learn more about Hong Kong's cultural attractions through the tournament. Sakura Yip, TVB News.
Today is Jingzhe in the Chinese lunar calendar, otherwise known as the awakening of insects. Some residents are engaged in the traditional act of villain hitting, and Donald Trump is a target. The most popular venue for the folk religious custom could be found beneath the Canal Road flyover in Causeway Bay. The image of the villains or disliked individuals would be burned after they receive a beating by old ladies. Many who visited the site today said they prayed for peace and health. Jingzhe is traditionally the day when insects are awakened by the springtime thunder, with legends saying that people would chase away the pests with herbs during this time of the year. The practice eventually evolved into the folk custom of villain hitting over time. And that's the news. Thank you for watching.